Hello and welcome to the show. It is so wonderful to have you guys here with us today. I have a special guest on today, Michael Chiana. Hello, Michael. It's so wonderful to have you.
Hello, Kathy. How you doing today? Hello, audience. Hope everybody's doing good.
It is so good to see you. Unfortunately, Lynda cannot be here. She was hoping to be here, but she's dealing with some, family stuff. And Trevor's working this weekend, unfortunately. So, well, I mean, fortunately, I guess for him, unfortunate for us, but it is.
Yeah, we all have to work.
Right. And so I am so grateful to have you here with us. And, so today, I always say to people, yeah, I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that. They'll send me stuff. Yeah, I'm going to watch that. And I swear I have ADHD or something like that, because like I have a really hard time sitting for a lot of things. Right. So some people will send me stuff and I'll be like bouncing around, and then I'll do this and I'll do that. And then I'll start cleaning, or I start, you know what I mean? So I'm really trying to pay attention. But today, I had told you the other day, I'm going to watch your episode that you had sent me, and I was so looking forward to it. And I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And I actually sat in my seat, which was wonderful. and it's a testament to your show. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat. But so and the show that we're talking about, guys, is on Michael's YouTube channel. So just tell us a little bit about your channel. What's the name of it? All of that.
Sure. The channel is called Journey Through the Past TV, and it's on YouTube. It's where I've placed most of my episodes for my Journey Through the Past series, and also different small projects and different clips and different things that I find interesting, want to share with everybody. So you can check it out.
Yeah, it was really good. And I genuinely enjoyed it. It's funny though, even though we do a paranormal podcast, I'm not one who watches a lot of paranormal shows.
We don't have time.
That's exactly it. Like you know what I mean? And also too, sometimes I get, it depends. Like if they're like mainstream kind of paranormal shows, how they're made, what's going on, the behind the scenes, right? And you're kind of like, I got better shit to do.
That's right. That's why I try and be different. Mine is different because it's documentaries and it's real and there's no fake crap.
So the podcast, the show that I was talking about is called Old School Spirits, and it was a really good episode. So this is episode 3 on your channel, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, on the Journey Through the Past series. That's right.
And from what I understood, this has been a series of you guys that have attended, like gone to this place a few times. Like this is not just a one-time.
Right.
How many times do you go there? So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, this location is, I have a small farm up in eastern Tennessee, in Mountain City, Tennessee. And I've owned it since 2006. And it is very haunted. Just to get my little information in about the farm. But 5 minutes from the home, I noticed that there was, several years ago, I noticed a sign going up saying Watauga Lake Winery. And I said, since when do we have a winery by me, So I took a ride over there, and this is 6-7 years ago. And I pulled up at this old school, an old brick schoolhouse, about 5 or 6 rooms. And I went in, and there was nobody there. I met the owner, a really nice lady named Lynda, and we just got to talking, and she let me taste all her different 16 wines, and we just chit-chatted for a while and had a great time. And as I was getting ready to leave, I said, my God, this building is so quiet. I said, do you ever hear anything here in the building? And she's like, you mean paranormal ghosts? And I'm like, because I don't go around telling people what I do, as an investigator.
Yeah.
And,
well, usually the first thing that you introduce yourself with, right?
I love history. That's my biggest thing. So she goes, do you mean ghosts? Because 2 weeks ago, a fellow that works here had a really interesting experience. And we've had other guests come in and say that they've felt things and experienced things here in the building. And that's when I told her what I did. And the next thing
That
out of
is
her
so
mouth was, "Do you want to come investigate?" And so I was like, "Oh, absolutely." I said, "It's been my dream to find an old school, not a big one, but a small one, out in the middle of nowhere, and to investigate it." And so we got to talking, and she had to confirm it with her husband and everything. And so probably about a few weeks later, I came back in with just one other person, and we started our investigations. And we only did about 2 or 3 hours there, and the building stayed so quiet. There's a cinder block building with a steel roof, and there's
yeah.
no creaking and no noises. And we heard a few things during our investigation. And she also does events there. She made the school into like an events place where they have a gourmet kitchen and they do dinners, and they took all the classrooms and made them into dining rooms. And so she was like, "Well, if you find something, would you like to do a paranormal event here, and we can have like a big dinner?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "That's great." I said, "Let's see what we find first." I said, "Because I won't do anything unless I find good evidence." So
Yeah,
she said,
yeah.
"Have at it," you know. And so we investigated, and we were sitting there, and by the end of the night, we're like, "My God!" I said, "I don't think there's anything here. It's so quiet," you know. And we went home and took about 2 weeks to review, and wow, we captured a lot of things in that first visit. So we did,
Isn't it funny though how
you know,
sometimes you just don't think that you're getting anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, when you're doing the review, you're like,
oh yeah,
"Oh my
yeah.
god."
Yeah, so
There's
please,
so much.
everybody watch this episode because the evidence is like insane. It's got so much
Yeah.
evidence. And it's not a very long, it's not under an hour. It's maybe 30 or maybe 40, 50 minutes long. But the evidence that we captured um, in this episode is really great. And
There's
they,
lots of EVPs I noticed, like
yeah, a
lots
lot
of
of EVPs, some
yeah,
photos,
yeah,
um, and just a lot of EVPs. Yeah, and I always only investigate with one other person to limit noise contamination and things like that. I don't
mhm,
like to go in with 3 and 4 people because then you
right,
have to try and keep up with everybody. I don't do it anymore. I refuse.
yeah.
I'll either go in by myself or I'll just bring one other person that's very
Or
experienced.
you're always tagging somebody at this you're always tagging your
Yeah,
movements, like, "That
no, I
was me, that
totally.
was me, that was me, that was," and so I get it, like, one other
And
person
working
is
with seasoned investigators, I don't have to explain to anybody what to do or
yeah,
newbies. I only handpick people that have been doing it a long time, so we just know automatic. Just know how to tag everything and keep quiet. So yeah, but we did capture some really great things in this episode. So they were, and the funny thing was the husband was a total skeptic. He's like, "I don't believe in ghosts. I don't." He goes, "Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on here." He goes, "But I don't believe in ghosts." I said, "Okay." I said, "That's great." I said, "That's the best way to be." I said, "So let's see what we find." And then we did investigate 4 separate times over the years. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we investigated 4 times. So we did capture a lot, and that's what I'm sharing in this episode.
that is so cool. Do you think he's as much of a skeptic now? Is he kind of like,
Oh, he definitely believes that there's something there, and we proved him wrong. His own daughter, you'll see, I interviewed him. He was the first person I interviewed, and he's in the episode. And he explained about how his daughter was there for an event, and she was in the kitchen after the event cleaning, and something came up behind her. And I think by profession she's a doctor, so she's very, and so she went up to her dad and said, you got ghosts in this building. And that was years ago. And so he's like, "Oh, come on, there's no ghost here." And I think we proved him wrong.
yeah. You gotta love it when you convert the skeptics, eh?
Yeah, and I don't try and convince anybody anymore. I just go in, I do my work, I capture
That's
my evidence,
exactly it.
and then I share it with you. And I make sure I only put out really good Class A's and things like that. I'm not going to put
Yeah,
out B's and C's, EVPs, because people won't be able to hear them. And so I'm only going to. I mean, we've probably captured over 100 EVPs there, so I've only handpicked some of the loudest, clearest ones for the
yeah.
episode. So and experiences. We had a lot of experiences too.
So tell us, how did the Heritage Hunter Society start? How did you start this?
Well, I originally from Long Island, New York, and lived there my whole life. And in the early '90s, getting married, and we decided to move to North Carolina. And so we moved here, and I noticed here that there were so many historical locations and museums that you could go to, and everything was free. There were no fees or anything like that. And so I started traveling and going to locations and started having paranormal experiences while I was visiting these historical locations. And I always loved the paranormal, but you're talking early 90s. And so, it wasn't popular. It wasn't on TV like it is nowadays. And we didn't have taps back then and all these other shows. But I grew up loving ghost stories and things. Didn't know if they
Yeah.
were real or not, but I just loved ghost stories for some reason as a kid. So I wanted to put something hand in hand where I took the history and the paranormal and put it together, and that's how I came up with the Heritage Hunter Society.
I love it. I love it. So we got some comments. Hello from Long Island. This is from Lynn. Hello, Lynn.
Hey,
Your
that's my
host. So
good
happy
friend,
to see you.
good friend from
And
high school. Great
that's
lady.
nice. We got Brenda with us as well. Hello, Brenda.
Hi,
How
Brenda.
you doing?
How you
Good to see
doing?
you. I love it when people leave comments because
Yeah, comments are
oh,
great. I
what's
can't
that?
really see them, but on this end, but it's always great to have everybody pop in.
Yeah, exactly. Lynn is like, hi. I think
Hi,
I called
bye.
you Linda. I didn't mean Linda. I meant Lynn. So okay, I like hearing stories that kind of brought you. So here's the thing. There's a difference between liking the paranormal and being interested in the paranormal to okay, I got to check this out. Like I got to see what the hell is going on. What do you think was that movement for you? Like what brought you to that place?
Well, like I said, growing up as a kid of the late '60s, early '70s, and all the TV shows, loved all the Munsters, the Addams Family, In Search of, Twilight Zone, all those shows I loved for some reason. Don't know why. And then when I was
Scooby
14,
Doo.
that's right. Oh, can't forget Scooby Doo. I started. I was a musician starting out, and I bought a really expensive reel-to-reel. This is 1978, and then I started reading some articles on how to record ghosts, and I was like, ghosts? I said, wow, I can record them. I said, oh, I'm going to try this, and so I did. I set up this reel-to-reel. Um, and I didn't use microphones. The article said just plug straight into stereo, go to static, and let it run. And that's what I did. And it was a 2-hour tape. Reel to reel had 2-hour tapes. And about an hour in, I had captured somebody yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs, like bloody
Oh my
murder.
god.
And that's what I had captured. And I knew that it wasn't like, because we didn't have cell phones back then. And, and like I said, it wasn't through our phones. So I knew what I had captured, and I knew it was real. And so that put me on the path. And I'm still on it all these years later. And that was when I was 14, I started. So it's kind of my first recording.
That is pretty cool actually. Do you think so from Sparky?
Hey,
Sparky's
Sparky,
paranormal.
an old buddy. Sparky, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Um whoa. So let me ask you a question. What case or experience? Okay, so here's the thing. I think that listening to a recording with like screaming would kind of set me back a bit, to be honest. I'd be a little like, especially
Oh,
when you're that young. Like that's something that, it's funny because we can hear that, we can listen to what you're saying, but
yeah.
you have to fully absorb that energy. Like you have to absorb that story. You have to go, okay, this is like what 14-year-old that's listening to this stuff
Yeah.
and having that appear. That's not a minor incident to have happen.
Oh no. And
It's not right, like
he
because
was
it can be very jarring.
well, this man was screaming like he's being tortured or ripped apart. That's how he sounded.
Right.
And at first I thought, well, maybe it's an airplane crash. Maybe somehow I captured a plane going down or something and somebody calling for help. But this man was cursing. And at 14, he was saying curses I had never even heard before, and and I knew he was, like I said, he was in distress. And no, it shocked the hell out of me. And then my best friend John came over and I played it for him, and he was blown away. And then I remember my father, we were talking about, he didn't believe in any kind of ghosts or anything. And so I said, oh, come in here and listen to this. And so he listened. And as soon as it got to that part, he jumped about 12 inches off the ground and ran out of the room.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Well, and
years
I
later,
mean, you know, you said this was your father that did that?
yeah, my father, and
Yeah.
so he ran out of the room. He's a big, strong, tough guy, you know.
Well, when you
Um,
think about it too, I mean, like, not only is that jarring, but, like, as a parent, I think that my first instinct would be like, how the hell do you protect your kids? Like, you know what I mean? Like
no,
that's something that
he
where's
wasn't
that
trying to betray
coming
me. He ran
from?
out of the room.
Yeah,
He was like, "See
that
you
was his
later.
in
I'm going." And it
his
was funny.
instinct was
Years
to
later,
run.
many years later, when he was on his deathbed, and he had cancer and he was dying, and he said, I talked about the old recording. He goes, at first I didn't believe in any of that. I was just fooling you. I'm like, yeah, okay. I saw you jump off the ground 12 inches. That wasn't an act. And then as he knew he was fading, and he was always like very, not that he was mean to me, but he's very, condescending about, oh, you believe in ghosts and this and my whole life. Even as I got more and more into it, and started recording, he always, even years later when I lived here in North Carolina, he's like, oh, you believe in ghosts and this and that, and I said, well, they're real. And when he was on his deathbed, I came to see him, and he was like, I just want to tell you, I do believe in ghosts now. And I'm like, yeah, because you're going to be one soon. And so we joked around, laughed about it. But, yeah, well, a week or two later when he passed away. But I
Yeah,
have actually gotten a recording from him after he passed away, um, at our summer home up in New Hampshire. We had a lake home. And after he passed away, our whole family went up there. And of course, I know that he's hanging around there. And so I did some recordings late at night, and I actually got a recording of him. So that's really interesting.
that would have been what was he saying, or can you say, is it
Well, the funny thing was, it's so, it was, we were sitting around, and of course, my kids were raised on the paranormal. They didn't have a choice. Um,
of course.
and so we were sitting at the lake house, and it was 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're all night owls. And we were sitting there talking, and I had the K2 meter on. All of a sudden, the K2 went like crazy, and there's no Wi-Fi there because this is a lake house. There's no Wi-Fi, and so I saw it strike, and so I said, I said to my son, I said, oh, the K2 just went off. I said, oh, I wonder what caused that. And he said, I don't know. And with that, my father's voice popped in. And he said, it wasn't me.
Oh,
He
so
was like,
was that on
like
the
we were
recording, or
blaming
did you
him.
hear it like
He almost acted like a little kid, like we were blaming him for the K2. And he's like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I was like, oh
was
my God.
that so was that on the recording, or was it
Yeah,
audible,
it's on the
like,
recording. Of course, we didn't hear it with our ears at the time,
oh,
but when I played it
okay.
back, I was like, "Oh," and it was very garbly,
Yeah,
because he had only
yeah,
passed away a few months earlier, and that was his favorite place in the whole world, was that lake house. And my younger brother had passed away several years, about 14 years before that, at the lake. He had drowned, a fishing
oh,
accident early
I'm
in
so
the morning
sorry to hear that.
back in, yeah, 2000. And but he died loving what he did. I mean, he was a fishing fanatic. I mean, this
Right,
kid, by the time he was a little kid up until 29, he just fished 24/7. All he could care about was fishing, and he was in tournaments, and he joined all kinds of fishing clubs. So how ironic that he drowned in the lake in the early morning. But and I had captured some things with him too at the lake several years before that when my father was still alive. So I do believe they're both there. They were the best of friends, and I do believe that both their spirits are still there. It's called Pearly Pond, and how appropriate is that for like pearly gates, Yeah,
yeah.
Pearly Pond in New Hampshire, and they're definitely there. They're still hanging out, and they're
Did you
fishing.
ever play your brother's recordings for your father when he was alive?
I never recorded my brother. I actually got a photo of my brother. Um,
Okay.
when I first bought my Tennessee place, and my older brother was up there. Me and him were outside, and we were digging a hole to put up a light pole. He's an electrician, and we were just talking about my younger brother. And behind my house, down the hill, is a pond, and we were just talking about him. And we said, "Oh, Jimmy was here." My brother's like, "Oh, he'd be at that fucking pond right now. You know he would be." And with that, I took a picture of my brother putting in the pole, and in the window of the house, looking out at me, is my younger brother, and I captured a photo of him. So you're talking about crazy, yeah. And that was 2006. So it was 6 years after you passed away. So there is no time, and this is why I know for a fact there's no time on the other side. Uh, 6 years to us could be 6 minutes to them. So just really crazy that I got that photo.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that there's a time factor too. And
Yeah.
and I think that also too is like, when we think about some of these places that are, people will say that they're trapped or trap spirits or whatever. I think it's just that we're on a different timeline,
Yeah.
quite honestly. I really do. I feel like we're on a different timeline than what we're hearing. And that might have been an instant at some point that we hear all of this screaming or yelling or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm and this is coming from, somebody who does have mediumship skills, is I just have a really hard time going with the whole trap theory. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I do.
Well, I believe vibrations. That's the biggest thing. Our vibrations, when we vibrate high and the spirit is vibrating and you match at the same time, that's usually when you'll have an experience, or you'll see them, or they'll see you. So I believe in vibrations and things like
I
that.
do too. I do too. I agree with that. Yeah.
And
I'm
so,
not
and maybe the people are just confused, because even as a spirit, you can still be confused. I don't believe that when you pass on that you have any other knowledgeable answers than we do right now. I mean, I've recorded so many ghosts that are confused and don't know that they're even dead. I have some recordings from Gettysburg where a ghost is saying, "Am I dead?" I mean, he didn't know he was dead, and I have a recording of that. So I don't know if we get the answers on the other side. Everybody always says, "Oh, well, when you go, you'll get the answer." I don't know if you do. That's why I'm trying to learn everything now that I can, so I'm more educated when that's my time. At least I
I
can
I was
instruct on
kind
the
of I
other
was kind of
side.
looking forward to that, having all of this infinite
No,
knowledge.
well, why wouldn't they give us the lottery numbers then? Well, they can help us
Right?
with that. Give us the lottery
Yeah.
numbers. Can't
Exactly.
do it because they don't know.
Uh,
They don't know it any better than we do.
Sparky said, "So cool you got Michael on. Such a cool
Sparky is great.
fun
I'm so
dude."
glad to see
Yeah.
Sparky. It's been many years. We did a big conference years ago when he was with a different group, and I'm so glad that he's doing his own thing out there on YouTube. And hello, Sparky.
That is so cool. So, yeah, no, really, I was really looking forward to having all of this infinite knowledge. It's like, was the moon landing real? Like, come on, I want some answers. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. But then again, I do believe that spirits can, like, and I only base all that I talk about through my own experiences and evidence. That's like, I don't use the word believe because, or faith. I don't believe in that, and I don't use it
Yeah,
in what I do because I want just really good evidence and things that I've captured that I can share with other people. And that's why I work so hard at capturing good evidence. And like, I've had spirits before I ask a question, I'll get the answer. They'll answer it before I even ask the question.
yeah.
And I have those recordings where they said yes or no before I even asked the question. So they can definitely read your thoughts.
So Sparky has a question, and he goes,
Sure.
I like to try and have fun with the questions. What
Right.
is the most odd question that you've asked a spirit?
That is a good question. I always try and do different types of things because, doing this for so many years, just like me, we get so pigeonholed into asking the same questions. What's your
Mhm.
name, and how many people are here
Here,
in the
tap 3 times and do this.
tap 3 times. I always try and be unique with the spirit. Like we were doing a case many years ago, me and my good friends from NC Hags, Eddie, Jeff, and Mike, and everybody, and we were doing a really interesting home that was called the Pink Mansion, and it was a famous author that we had been working with, and her husband was a sheriff and he died. I don't know if he had been killed or he died from cancer, but he had passed away. And so the family was living in this rental home, and they were having all kinds of experiences there. And I think they were dealing with a lot of grief too, so that could have amped up the activity that was possibly there. And they kept saying that there was a little girl that was there, and they kept seeing this little girl. So my question, and I tried to be different, is a little girl, we're here, and if you could give us a message, we'll give it to your family so that they'll know you're okay. And so that was my question, very different. And the first thing that I got as a recording was, well, I don't see them. That's what the
Oh,
little girl
wow.
said. Well, I don't see my family. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, holy crap. I go, wow, that was a really different kind of Evie thing. So,
So I have a question. I want to ask you about this.
sure,
Um, because again, I'm coming from a different perspective, I guess. Like I'm coming from a mediumship kind of
sure,
perspective.
which I know
Um,
nothing about.
what's that?
I'm like a brick when it comes to that. I have no sensitivity whatsoever.
They Do you believe in child spirits?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you?
Yes.
So, because everyone that I've encountered, I guess, and we never really encountered a whole lot when we were doing investigation. There was a couple that we did encounter to some extent. However, they were not children, right? And so a lot of times what had happened is during the process of like, or one of the reasons why we were there, I guess, to investigate was simply because there was somebody, usually the mother of the house or whatever, that
Right.
was like, noticing that there was activity going on and assuming it was a child because maybe they heard giggles or childlike activity.
Right.
Oh, please, you can stay. We're, just be good, like giving them like, well, you can stay, but just be good, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you know, they're living in, you know, not great atmosphere going on here, right?
Right. Right.
Something that has kind of taken over
Yeah.
the
I've
energy.
dealt with a lot of cases, and I've dealt with other investigators that believe that there are no children spirits, and that they're all demons, and that they're all devils, and they're all evil things.
I
And
have done mediumship readings where children have passed away and
right,
that they have come forward in the reading. Okay. And
right,
so, and I didn't even know, like there was many times where I didn't even know that the child had passed. Like it was just like, who
right,
is this person that's popping in? I don't like tell me who this person is. But that was different because they're not really on an investigation and I didn't
right.
know about them. And the people weren't even there really to particularly have that type of reading. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was just somebody that came through and it
So
might not have been their
you
child.
were basically doing a visitation, and using your mediumship skills. Is that what you were doing? You weren't actually investigating.
Yeah, it was just so because I do readings professionally, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
so during the reading, it would just, I would hear somebody coming through or trying to, even if we're talking about something completely different to that, people will come through when you're sometimes doing a reading and, and so I would have to ask them, who is this person? Or what, this is the scenario or the vision that I'm being shown at this time. What does this mean to you? And it will have turned out that it was a child. And so, but it's a completely different, I feel like that's a completely different aspect,
Well,
I
so I
suppose,
have a question for you. So when you have thought that a child was coming through, had you ever sensed that at first, yeah, I was picking up on a child, and then it morphed into something else that was more evil or
No,
mean?
only during investigations, which is
Right, but
funny. Like,
never
but
during your
not
work. Right,
but not when I was doing a reading. So when I was doing a reading, it wasn't even so much that I would know that they were a child right at first because but
right,
when I do readings, so I give kind of instructions like I don't know the best way to because I don't want to be led by
right,
what somebody is saying. I want it to be an
right.
authentic reading, right?
Oh, totally.
And so if let's say a name comes through and it's Billy, and I'll say, look who is Billy? What does this person mean to you? Because I hear,
Right,
but before you answer me, this is what I'm receiving. So Billy is showing me A, B, C, D, or I'm hearing this, or I'm hearing
Right.
that. And
Sure.
I just need to put that in.
Confirm.
So, yeah. And so now that you have the information of what I've received, now you can explain to me who Billy is or if they're
Right.
even connected to you, right?
Right.
Because sometimes people come through that aren't even connected with your
Oh,
particular, like you're opening a door. So,
right.
you know,
Right.
right?
And just as well as I do with the paranormal, it's a multitude of things. It's never ending, and there's so many facets of it that it's not just one thing. It's not 10 things. It's not 100 things. It's more than that.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
with that same story I was telling you about the little girl and the EVP, at the same time, the older daughter, I think she was 17, had her own room, and she was being attacked by something that was mean or evil, and at nighttime was choking her and trying to choke her out. And so this is where the correlation maybe there was something really bad there, or maybe a mean spirit. But so I was in the room, and it was towards the end of the night, and so we always make everybody leave. The families can't stay when we investigate,
Mm.
so that we could just do what we do. And so I was in the bedroom. I had just set up, and I put the recorder down, and I was just sitting there quietly, and just thinking about the girl, and always just staying very balanced, very even keeled on what their experiences were, just to keep my mind like blank. And in the recording, actually, upon review, a week later, I caught a mean voice saying hack, just the word hack, and like almost like I'm gonna hack you with an axe, like I'm gonna hack you, or maybe he's calling me a hack. I don't know. But it was a mean, evil voice, and it was. And when I first heard it on my review, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it really upset me. And it didn't upset me because it was a scary voice. It
Yeah.
upset me because I said, "Oh my God!" I didn't believe that the girl was really being choked, and I was like, "Oh my God, she really was being attacked by something." And that scared the crap out of me that she actually was really experiencing that. And so maybe that same spirit was the spirit of the little child. And I know a lot of people say, oh, spirits of children are children. I have no answers to that, but it's possible. Was that mean spirit posing as a child? It's possible. I don't
Yeah.
ever speculate on that. I just don't put my energy into those things. And when I
Yeah.
investigate, it's not my thing. Do I believe that there's evil things in this world?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I will never waste my time dealing with anything evil. There's other people out there that love
That's
to
exactly it.
thrill seeking,
So
and people that love to do that work, and have at it. It's not for me, because
we
I don't want to
actually,
bring that
so
home
when
either.
we were investigating, we did not deal with that.
Right,
Was
and I
just,
don't
that
either.
was not our thing.
Yeah,
But during the investigation, if somebody said, look, I think I might have this or ABC, or there's a child in the house,
right,
absolutely, we will come and take a look at it.
right,
And, but that's where, that was very, very, like, I believe I only remember, to be honest, 2 cases in all the cases that we did where something was apparently associated with a child. And both of those were, when we got there, the energy was very, very dense. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Thankfully, we didn't have to not do that case. Like, you know what I mean? Because usually if it comes, there are some cases like we don't want to go stirring up stuff.
right,
We're
right.
not,
I'm the same way.
demonologists. We're investigators, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
But there's
actually,
all kinds of investigators out there, so,
absolutely.
and it's
And
good to have
Sparky
a
did ask,
portfolio of people to use. Like I have ordained ministers and things like that. If I did come across a case that I felt was bad, I would refer them, and they would go take a look at it or see what they could do. But I wouldn't get
yeah.
involved. It's just something I don't want to do.
So, Sparky actually asked me too, and I appreciated this question. He says, "Can you feel the difference when a spirit comes through misrepresenting itself?" And so, the way I answered that was like, on an investigation, usually yes, because when you go as a medium or as a psychic or however you want to, empath, intuitive, whatever, when you go on an investigation, it's different than doing an actual reading. When I'm doing a reading for somebody, I'm working with their energy, their guides, their angels. I'm coming from the light. I'm coming from a different place to give guidance and to help sort maybe particularly a situation, or to just give them maybe a next step in something, but it's basically listening to their guides and angels and their own energy. When I'm on an investigation, that's a whole different aspect, and you're
Right.
coming from a different energy, and you're walking into the house with a different energy,
Right.
I guess, is the best way to say it. When you're going into a house, because you're dealing with lots of people for one, so you got to, and actually I love this question because I was just going to talk about that protection. You're protecting yourself from all of the different energies that are within the home, whether
Right.
this is the people or the entities, the spirits, whatever is coming through. Sometimes it's their dog. I mean, we've been,
That's right.
barked, right?
Mhm.
Or a wild raccoon or something like that, but you still have a level of protection. Actually, Brenda says, how do you protect yourselves before going into investigations or readings? So do you do anything in particular?
Um, I don't use any type of religion in what I do. I do work with other people that are more religious and more Christian, and that's great. And when they're working with me, they'll do small prayers before they go in, and before the end of the evening, when we're ready to leave, they will do a small prayer, and they will say, "Look, whoever's here, you have to stay here. Do not follow us home," and just verbally say that. And that's kind of the lines that I use as well. Um, but I don't bring in any religion, so I don't. I've been doing this for so many years. If they were going to get me and beat me up and hurt me, I would have experienced it by now. I've been in some of the most craziest places in the world, um, down the catacombs in France with 6 million bones and skulls. All kinds of spirits are down there. So me personally, I don't, but I do work with some really great people that have a little bit more Christian background, and I love that. I think it's great. We have an ordained minister that we have worked with, and she's a really great investigator as well. So we have a nice little pool of different people to work with over the years.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Do you find so I just wanted to, so just to answer Brenda's question there for myself. Um I don't really, I just basically ask for protection from my own personal guides, my own spirits, that sort of
Right.
thing. If I'm doing readings, I just ask for the best guidance for this person, and to be able to um you know give me the information that is needed for that person, and to help them on the next step or whatever it is that they're seeking, I guess,
Right.
is the best way
That's,
to say it.
yeah. That's
And also Brenda's asking, do animals ever come through? I've heard some say they do not. For me, yeah, we've had lots of animals come through, not only on
yeah.
investigations but also for readings. How about for you?
Yes. I've after my brother had passed away in 2000. We actually had an experience. We came home, and my brother always, I didn't know, but he told my wife years ago, he goes, "Well, if I ever die," he goes, "I want to come back as a dog because God, Ann, you take such good care of dogs." So we thought that was funny. So we came home, and like I said, we were still out of it. We had to travel to New York for the funerals and came back to North Carolina. We were kind of just numb, and we went to the park, and my son was 2 at the time, and so he was running around in the park, and we're sitting in the park. It's completely empty. There's nobody there, and out of nowhere, this scruffy dog, comes running up to us, and he's soaking wet. He's completely wet. And we're like,
Like he was in a lake, or
we're like,
maybe
there's
drowned?
no ponds, there's nothing around it. And he beelined across it. We were watching him come out of the woods, and he came straight to us. And he was like within a few feet of us. And he was just like, had like happy face on him. And we're going, Jimmy? We're like, this is crazy. But it gets even crazier because I talked to my good friend John in New York around the same time. He goes, wow, he goes, that's so weird. He goes, I was going to the deli and this dog came out of nowhere and he wouldn't leave my side. He came out while I was going to the deli, he walked right up. And then when I came out, he was still outside waiting for me. And then my sister also at the same time, within a few days, um, was coming over to my parents' home and turned the corner and saw her dog it was a black dog that they had put down maybe 6 months ago, and they saw her dog right on the corner, just staring at her. So, so we had 3 different experiences with dogs during that time. So I just thought it was very interesting. Is there any proof? No, but I think it's very interesting.
It's interesting, especially with for your brother too, the fact that
Yeah,
the dog was soaking wet and your brother
soaking wet
had
and
drowned, right?
scraggly,
Like,
and yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
just crazy. And then he just left. He just wandered off, and that was like that was the weirdest thing that happened. So I do believe. First of all, I believe that animals can see spirits. Cats and dogs
Yeah.
definitely. I don't know about other animals, but I do believe in eye shine, which is part of their eye. That the back of their eye socket is reflective, and so they can. That's why they have more of an IR at night. They can see in the dark that we can't. And I do believe that and pets and animals can see spirits.
So I got to tell you a funny story. So in my home, I do know that there are spirits here, but we don't really interact with each other unless
Sure.
it's very protective, whatever it is, and it's fine. We let it be. So there was times where, my dog would sit at the bottom of the stairs and growl up the stairs at something or
Sure.
someone or whatever it was, right? And
Sure.
I don't investigate my own home. I don't believe in it, and I just let
I
it
don't
be.
either.
It doesn't
Yeah.
bother
Well,
me.
'cause you have
I
to
don't
live
bother.
there. It's yeah, I
Yeah,
deal with the same. This
but
office, same thing with spirits in here as well.
exactly.
I
But I have
totally
to tell you something funny. So, and I'm still I don't know if I'm skeptical or if I'm like, so I have a boa constrictor. He's a very large 10-foot boa constrictor.
oh, wow.
Okay. And usually 99% of his time he sleeps. He's not very, he's also very old. He's almost 20 years old.
Oh,
So,
wow.
but he sleeps a lot, you know what I mean? Or he lays there. I don't know if he's sleeping because his eyes are open. They don't have eyelids, right? But it's interesting because he usually will react to movement, especially when he's starting to get hungry. So you can see, like, my son and will walk downstairs and he'll see my son. Not that he's trying to eat my son, but he knows like it's coming to feeding time. So he's
Right.
watching movements, you know what I mean? And my son will walk by and he'll be like, he'll hold. And I'll walk by and he'll be like, I see you, but most of the time he's very like, I'm just going to sit here.
Docile.
My
Yeah.
cat will walk by, he'll watch the cat. So it's really interesting because every once in a while I'll see him and he'll be like this. And he's
Hmm.
watching, so he's watching something because there's no movement. That it's not my son, it's not my cat, it's not me. He's watching something. You can see him going back and forth like he's like stalking,
Oh,
you know
definitely.
and
Yeah.
it's really interesting. So you kind of wonder, like, how much do they pick up or how
Oh,
much do they see, or you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it makes me very, I don't know how. I'm not gonna risk, recording it or anything like that, because again, I
Right.
don't believe that but I just find it really interesting at the fact that he's like back and forth, and you can see him like actually stalking,
Oh,
like
yeah.
as if it was, or he'll get that real, like, where he backs up, like when he's ready to strike. Like, let's say if you're feeding him a rat,
Mhm.
he'll back up and kind of get
Instinct.
into
Yeah.
strike mode, and then
Right.
every once in a while he'll get into strike mode, and all of a sudden be like against the glass, and you're
Yeah.
like, what the hell are you jumping on?
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing there. Like,
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely picking up on something.
he's, yeah, but like nothing that you can see with the actual eyes. So I find
Right.
that very interesting, you know?
And it could be an energy that he's picking up on. It could be a natural energy. It could be a spirit. Um, it's so funny that you say that about, you think about how many investigators and paranormal researchers and sensitives and psychics own homes that are haunted. Um, my home here, I have activity here. When I built this garage back in 2000, did never experience anything. And a good friend of mine, the lady Danny, that's actually in the episode that you watched, Danny Corley, she was coming up from South Carolina. And we were going to Gettysburg, and my office out here is like an apartment. And there's a pull-out bed, and so she was staying out here and for the night before we left for Gettysburg the next morning. And when I saw her the next morning, she goes, Michael, do you know that there's 3 ghosts in your garage? And right behind me, in this area right behind me, she said that she saw 3 black men whispering. and just standing there and whispering and pointing out this window towards the backyard. And I believe her because I've worked with her so many times, and she is such a great investigator.
Yeah.
And she's very, credible person. She was Miss South Carolina in 1996. So she's an actress as well. Been on some TV shows, but as an investigator, she's awesome. And I totally believed her.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I never. And so this is right in this area is where I sit here and I do all my editing for the shows and stuff. And I'll be out here 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning over the years editing. And I've heard all kinds of stuff here in the room going on. And I
Yeah.
could care less. I'm like, whatever, be quiet. Just, I'm editing. Leave me alone, So I never had anything bother me. But I just thought it was interesting that I never had picked up on that. And she did. And then I come to find out that where my subdivision is an old farm, and there's 600 acres here. And so many years ago, I went in the back fields and I was getting recordings, EVPs back then. Those were some of the first recordings I ever got. So I do believe that this area, I believe spirits are everywhere in the world. So
Yeah.
not just here, it's everywhere. I believe they're everywhere.
We
So
had
just
a
interesting.
subdivision. We had a subdivision here in my city that was new. This was about 20 years ago. And at the time it was interesting because we kept getting phone calls. Like it was a new division, but like it was fairly large, right? So it wasn't like, one street. This was actually like,
Right. Several
it was,
streets.
yeah, and different little neighborhoods and stuff, like almost like a city of its own. It was a big division. Interesting enough, we were getting different calls from various areas within one subdivision, but they were all like several streets apart from each other, and they
Hmm.
were very, very similar accounts.
Hmm.
And we investigated, and it turned out to be one farm. So it turns out the city had actually bought several farms, which
Sure.
they had turned into the subdivision. But
Sure.
it was one farm that seemed to be where all the activity was coming from.
Hmm.
It was really interesting.
Were people getting phone calls and then like hang-ups and things like that?
Um, no, it was, to be honest, it was more like apparitions. They were
Oh,
getting a lot of apparitions.
sure.
They were getting really, really bad feelings, I guess, going into the basement areas of their homes, like underground. And so obviously we don't know exactly what happened there, but it was, very prevalent that something might have gone on. And in fact, we think that it might have been a slaughter farm, like a slaughter.
Sure.
But so they were getting a lot of apparitions and stuff like that. So
Sure. Yeah, it's funny. Farms are. I've investigated one subdivision many years ago. A man contacted us. He was an insurance agent, and he lived by himself. And he said, "My house is within 10 years old." He goes, "I've got all this crap going on in my house, banging and footsteps and all this." And we're like, "Okay." We always go in very subtle, and we just we just listen to what they say and we keep note of it, but we don't focus on their experiences until we see what we capture. And with this case, it turned out that basically I solved a murder through my EVPs, and I was getting all these voices, and I got a woman's name saying like Sadie Hawkins. That wasn't her name, but it was a very old name.
yeah,
And then we had a woman saying, look out, watch for him, watch him. He's got a gun. I mean, there's different EVPs I was getting. And so when I brought I had about 30 or 40 EVPs from the one night, and I showed them to him, and he's like, "Oh my God!" He goes, "I have the history of all this property." He goes, "You don't know anything about it." He goes, "I have the pistol of that murdered this woman that she had married an older man. And of course, once she married him, she realized she made a mistake and she didn't want to be married to him. And he got so irate that he killed her. And so I have all these EVPs that connect the story of this murder and the farm that used to be there that wasn't there anymore. But yeah, definitely older subdivisions on, with farms, there's a lot of activity that goes on. So he was blown away because the client was so skeptical of us, like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I believe in this stuff. And when we came back in, we showed him the evidence that we had no knowledge of. There's no way we could have fabricated
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
he was blown away to the point that he took our EVPs and he actually wrote not a screenplay, but he just had to write down a diary of all the accounts so that he knew that he wasn't losing his mind. And I was like blown when he told me and he let me read it. And I was like, holy crap. I said, wow. And it was all through the EVPs that I captured. So, yeah, crazy
That is
stuff.
so cool.
Oh, yeah.
So just before we wrap up, we've got a few more minutes here, but my Sparky is asking, what is the craziest investigation you've been on and why? Do you mind telling us?
Oh, well,
Sharing that story?
well, sure. Well, my favorite is the Lake Lorraine, and Sparky knows about that because that's where we all met, which is a beautiful hotel up in the North Carolina mountains, and that was the backdrop for the movie Dirty Dancing. And
Okay.
so a lot of the staff and a lot of the cast members stayed at this hotel, and they used this hotel and another hotel over the border into Virginia for the movie itself. And so Sparky was part of a team that had done this paranormal conference, and we all went, and we had the best weekend, and we captured so many things, EVP. So that's probably one of my favorite places. And we had, I actually, at 1 o'clock in the morning on the first night, everybody was gone. Everybody was upstairs and sleeping. And my buddy's like, where the hell is everybody? I'm like, what kind of paranormal people are these? Everybody's upstairs sleeping. There's nobody out here. And so we were in the lobby, and there was a girl, a night order, just doing the books. That was the only thing. And so I just turned and I took 3 shots in a row. I took one, I took two, and for some reason the camera misfired on the second one. And I took the third one, all in the same direction. And in the third shot, there's a man's legs sticking out from behind this column. And there was absolutely nobody down there. We know for a fact because we had other pictures after that. And so we captured these legs. We call them a apparition because it was just the legs sticking out, and was very fascinating. And plus all the EVPs and things that we captured. That was one place, but I've been to so many places over the years that, God, my favorite is probably the catacombs in France. And I did bring my equipment down there, and I captured some recordings and video and things like that. But I have to say the Lake Lorraine was one of my favorites as far as we had 200 people in the place over the weekend, and then, like I said, I'm capturing things in an empty lobby, So yeah, it's great place.
Yeah. When you okay, so when you had this experience with the legs and stuff like that, did you show everybody like the next day? I would have been like, see,
Oh
you
no,
guys went to bed.
no, it's so funny because I think that when you're taking hundreds of pictures, you just snap them like crazy, all weekend. And so it probably took me 2 months before I finally was going through everything again, and that's when I found the legs. It was like 2 months later. I was like, oh my god, wow. So, but we knew it was just me and my partner John, and there was nobody else down there. The night order was the only other person. She was behind the desk, and we had other pictures just pass as we walked right by that column, and took other pictures. So there was absolutely nobody down there. We would have tagged it, and we actually got an EVP. Just as I was taking those pictures, there's a man saying, "Hey, over here," and so we got that EVP to go with it. So interesting, just crazy stuff. But yeah, it took me about 2 months before I ever found that. I found things 2 and 3 years later in photos from cases that you just miss sometimes, So that's part of, you got to still go back and look at things. It's important.
We have this thermal imaging
Yeah,
from that you had sent me, and
yeah.
I
Love
just
to share that. Yeah.
yeah, can you just give us a rundown of what was going on for
Sure.
listeners?
Well, that's from the Country Squire Inn. That's my first episode on Journey Through the Past. So if you go on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch that whole episode. Unfortunately, at the time, that I discovered this, I had already made the episode and didn't even realize that I had this. But this is a thermal video capture. I love thermal video. That's what I like to use. I don't take pictures. I like to just run video in thermal and see if we capture anything. And I was alone in this ballroom, and the room was completely dark. You couldn't see across the room. And I set up the thermal, and I just let it run, and didn't even see this through the lens when I captured it. But yeah, I'd like everybody to watch this.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to share my screen here. So let's hope this works because I always muck up somehow. So first of all, can you see my screen? Let's start there. Does that show up?
Yep. Just hit that little play button.
Hey, all right, here we go. Right. Oh my goodness.
And then we slowed it down so you could see it better. My good friend Eddie was able to edit this for us and slow it down.
Look at that.
And that's in pure darkness. So if there was somebody running across that room, a human.
Oh, they would never be able to see anything.
They wouldn't be able to run like that. And they were running, and we slowed it down in slow mo. But
that is amazing. I'm just going to play it one more time because that.
Yeah, if you want to see it, it's on TikTok as well, and it has music to it.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually. What is your YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is.
I mean, not YouTube. Sorry, TikTok. You had mentioned TikTok.
Oh, I meant the Heritage Hunter.
The Heritage Hunter.
The Heritage Hunter. It's on there. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on YouTube, and that's enough. That's enough to keep up with.
Well, it's hard enough to keep up with sometimes with just one platform. I have all of them too, and I'm like, I'm just tired. I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, when you have a lot of evidence, you want to share it, but I'm very careful on where I share evidence. I really don't put a lot of stuff. Other than that, that's very rare that you'll see me post any kind of real evidence because I'd rather put it into a documentary. But I thought that was a cool clip, so I figured, that'd be something good. And it's so funny. That's something real. And so people on TikTok, they could care less about real. They'd rather have some stupid, scary thing that's jumping out at them that gets a million hits. But that's okay. I'm not here for the hits. I'm here to show real evidence. So that's what I do.
So they can follow you on Facebook too. I was just trying to get at I wanted to get your page and stuff up. Sure. Just but I think I'm not being successful with that.
That's
but
okay. I can just tell everybody.
Yeah, that would work.
Michael Chiana on Facebook. You can find me there. Also, the Heritage Hunter Society page is there. And then I also have on YouTube, I have Journey Through the Past TV, which you can see all of my different episodes and my clips, and you'll be able to see that thermal on there. And also, my newest venture is Haunted Frequencies, which is also on YouTube, and that's a EVP show. And I have hundreds and hundreds of EVPs, and I have all the backstories for them. So I share them on the YouTube channel, and then I also share them on Spreaker.com, which is like an old school radio type blog show that you can just listen to. So if you want to listen to things at night and just hear the different stories, Spreaker.com, and that's Haunted Frequencies on there. So I think I've got the bases covered.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I so appreciate you coming on to the show and being here.
I always appreciate coming on.
Oh yeah, and you know that I'm going to be harassing you to come on again. So.
Yeah, I missed seeing everybody else tonight, but I understand. Got to work, and I feel sorry for Lynda and with her family and all. But yes, anytime, I'm always available for you.
We really appreciate it so much, Michael. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching, and it's been a pleasure. We're going to be here next week. Hopefully Lynda's here with us. Yes, and as Sparky says, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share the video. Like, we really appreciate it. Subscribing, sharing, all of that. commenting, all of that actually helps our algorithm. So, you know, it gets us out there and it makes such a difference, and we truly appreciate it. It means a lot to us. So thank you again so very much. Michael,
Thanks,
don't go
everyone.
away.
Have a great night.
Just stay there, Michael. Okay, bye everybody. Take care.